And hello, everyone. And welcome in to the Decompression Session, episode 3.
Oh my god, we actually wound up doing another one of these.
We did another one.
For some reason.
They told us not to. We didn't listen. We're Return of the Jediing it.
And by Return of the Jediing it, we mean we're making an ill-advised third installment that no one asked for, but that everyone still wanted for some reason, because they didn't know any better.
But we're not going to do the thing that they did, and we're not going to make it super kid-friendly.
No, I think we should double down in the hard opposite direction and talk about some shit that no kid would have any interest in below the age of 13, which was the conclusion of MGK and Eminem's beef.
True.
We mentioned that last week. We were talking about a lot of musical things, and one thing that we discussed was Eminem and MGK's beef and the diss track that MGK, Machine Gun Kelly, had put out against Sir Nemnems. And I've come to a realization, Nick. After watching the Sway interview with Eminem, like the 3-part interview where he talked about like the Kamikaze and the album and everything and talking about the diss with Kelly, I've come to the conclusion that this is the stupidest beef of all time that produced tracks that were much better than they had any right to be.
Yes.
Machine Gun Kelly, like, I didn't know enough about his background. Dude's a nobody. Like, and the diss and like the tweet in question that started this whole diss, there was like a 2-year discrepancy between Eminem even seeing it and like any start of beef between them actually happening. It seems like it was all just down to pettiness and miscommunication than any kind of actual feud. But they still went in hard on each other with their disses, so it was still entertaining to watch. And Eminem dropped the counter track, Kill Shot, which why don't you talk a little bit about that, Mr. Nick?
Yeah, so I was not I knew I was kind of expecting it maybe sometime this week because I saw when he came out and he did the interviews and he basically told him like, look, I don't know how I'm going to do it, which kind of was a load of bullshit, but he didn't want to have to address him because he knew what he would do where like if I call somebody out, I'm giving them fame.
I mean, he literally did that.
Yep.
I had no fucking idea about Machine Gun Kelly until this diss happened. Like,
yeah, and so Killshot came out I think today, and today is for those playing the home game. We're recording this on Friday, September 14th. So you'll probably be hearing this on the 15th, which is tomorrow. So it's been out for probably a whole day by the time you're listening.
So all the mainstream media has already started talking shit about it because they hate everything and everyone.
True. It's a haterific world, Kyle. A haterific world.
Well, I mean, it's mostly just a haterific mainstream media.
Truth.
But what did you think of some of the lines on the track? Because I thought Eminem went about it the absolute right way now that I know what I know about Machine Gun Kelly's background and his credentials. Because, like, Eminem just didn't even take it seriously. Like, he just dismissed him the whole time. And he did the 8 Mile thing where it's like, yeah, I'm going to say everything that you did or could say against me, shit on it, and then shit on you.
Yeah.
Which is such an Eminem trademark. Like,
and that's just the way I think you really deal with.
What was the line? It was, you're a molehill, but I'm going to make a mountain out of you. Talking about like that getting him big, even though he didn't want to thing. Like Eminem's aware, but he's still going to do it.
And he took every line that I think Machine Gun Kelly where you like, that was that oomph and that pack from that first song from Rap Devil where you were like, oh my God, that was savage. And he acknowledges it, makes it not relevant, makes a joke out of it like you were saying, and then proceeds to just take a dump or make a dick joke right back in Kelly's face.
And the thing is, like, so many of the disses are so brutal and effective. Like, you need to have more fans than your own self in your own city. Like, that's such a visceral and brutal and to the point diss, but there's no profanity, there's no excessive language, there's no bad Eminem puns. I think the reason that Eminem's track is so good is because he didn't have to take it seriously at all. And he recognized that and just put this guy in his fucking place. Like, I'd rather be 80-year-old me than 20-year-old you. Oh, God.
Yeah. It's all around, I think. Beat-wise, too. I thought Eminem
sounds weirdly good on trap beats.
Yes, he does.
Like, I talked about it before, but, like, when you put a serious MC on trap sound, I understand why it's taken over so much of hip-hop, because it can be really fucking cool.
Yeah. And so I think both of our conclusions on this.
Stupid beef, great tracks.
Yes, but round 2 definitely goes to Eminem, and he is currently the top of the leaderboard there.
Yes,
I think.
the 2-person leaderboard.
Yeah, he's
unless you count like Paul Rosenberg or like whoever.
We're like playing Tron, and he totally just cut him off. So
yeah, he just like dropped the light trail in front of him, and it's like trying to
the dick
cube
moved
him
90
in.
degree, just right in your face. So we'll see. I was interested to see about what would happen after this if Machine Gun Kelly comes back again,
or if it just devolves into interviews and Twitter misses. Like,
yeah, I kind of hope it turns into more music.
Well,
I'm not
mean,
opposed to it.
This whole phenomenon has been Eminem in the music industry with Kamikaze and everything, and especially several trap artists and hip hop artists all just shitting on each other in this collective diss sphere. It's not even a circle. It's like a 3-dimensional shape at this point of just dissing and ragging on each other. And now you've had several artists, Machine Gun Kelly, Eminem, you got people that are going to be coming out and making so much more interesting music, because now by ripping the shit out of each other and getting all this beef in the public eye, they've kind of lit a fire under one another. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this, at least in terms of like some, like obviously this isn't going to affect like fucking Migos or like the absolute crazy heavy hitters.
No.
But for like the mid-grade, low-tier rap hip-hop, this could have some interesting effect. Might be nice to see.
And I thought it was also nice that
and again, let me interrupt you real quick and just say that although I accept that Migos is one of the biggest in the hip hop industry right now, that doesn't mean I think they're fucking good. I'm just talking about sales and notoriety. Please don't misconstrue me. Let me be unambiguous. I don't like Migos. Like,
I feel like Migos are really hit or miss for me.
They have a couple songs where it's like, if I'm drunk and I'm in the mood to party,
it's that same
this
thing
is a fun
again.
song.
Yep.
But like overwhelmingly more so than a lot of other trap artists, Migos in particular, when they have a bad track, I'm like, this is bad.
And then it gets overplayed to death because they have that
obsessive fan
mainstream-
base,
Yeah.
and the mainstream cred. But I am sorry.
Oh,
for
no.
interrupting you. Please
So
continue
coming back to
point.
your point that you made last week about out of all of the things on the album that you kind of wanted to address with Eminem there, kind of what you're talking about, the Tyler, the Creator line.
Yeah.
I do like that he came out and was like, I think I went a little too far with that.
He fucking never says that ever.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know that, like, he's starting to come to a new chapter in his life and career, is when he was willing to go, oh, okay, yeah, I fucked that up. Because he's the most prideful, petty person. He never admits when he's wrong.
No.
So, like, I don't know. That was interesting. I was like, wow. I'm sure you had some ulterior motive for doing it because you're Marshall Mathers, but like you just made a kind of a class move and like admitted you were wrong to someone who you said some hateful things to.
Yeah. Maybe
you can be a real boy.
And owned up to it in like an interview too. It wasn't like he came out and like put up an apology on Twitter. He actually was like, yeah, I think I went too far.
He's like, yeah, I fucked up.
Yep.
Which
goofed.
And that's what I have so much respect for. Like, did you follow the Oh, wow. That is the worst brain fart I've had in a while. I have no idea what I was going to reference.
It'll come back to you.
But I'll just state the general sentiment since I can't remember what comparison I was going to use. Fuck.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay. What I was going to say was that with Eminem coming out in that interview, I think the reason I appreciate it is because he didn't do the fake apology thing.
Nope.
Where it's like they try to make it all about them and how sorry they are, or they completely deny responsibility and sorry that you got offended. He was kept it short, simple. Was like, yeah, made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. I went too far. Like that is when I respect a person in authority or fame or celebrity making an apology, is when they make it short, simple, direct, and sincere. Because otherwise it's just another performance to them,
Yeah, and then you don't
like
get...
Louis C.K.'s apology. Like, there were so many lines in that apology where I'm just like, you're not even close to admitting that you're wrong. Like, it's
good try.
Like,
good.
I
good
appreciate
try.
the effort and like.
Yeah, and I think that'll be an interesting. Maybe we'll save some Louis C.K. conversation for another episode.
I'll be honest. I only vaguely know the details of his particular Me Too allegations, and I have only seen one of his specials, so I would not have as much information to bring to the table for that.
Yeah, I'll.
But it could be
we'll
fun.
Come back to it. Yeah,
because
again,
sure. Today's episode is going to be an episode like that one might be, in that Sir Nick has a wonderful topic to bring to the table today that I will be learning just as much about as all of you are.
And I think it's going to be more of an open-ended discussion too, more than anything. Kind of.
But you learn a lot from those, don't you?
You will. You will. And I'm going to preface this whole entire discussion with, I'm no expert. I don't know the inside details. All I can draw is from my personal knowledge and experience in that regard, like understanding the inner workings of that machine.
Indeed.
And the machine that we're referencing is, as discussed last episode, this week's episode, we're deep diving into the Space Force.
Did you just make a Hot Ones reference?
I might have, unintentionally.
That's what they do in the Explain That Graham segment. He's like, we do a deep dive on our guest's Instagram.
Yeah.
That's I figured that was what you were going
No,
for.
No. Sadly enough, no.
You looked really affected by that.
I was hurt,
Are you okay?
Yeah. I wish I could be Sean Evans.
Dude, I feel like everyone wishes they could be Sean Evans.
What a fun interview concept.
Dude, he nailed it. But
back to the topic at hand.
Space Force.
Yes.
Not Sean Force.
No. So as we talked about last week, we wanted to deep dive into some Space Force stuff. And the reason that we wanted to do it is that, I think the Space Force had its really big minutes of fame a couple of months ago when the Trump administration came out and kind of talked about it, and everybody collectively chuckled together.
Shrugged their shoulders.
Like, what the fuck is this? Like, is this, like, when I read that title, like that article online, I thought it was bullshit. Like, I thought that title, like, Trump announces the Space Force.
Never a safe assumption with a headline regarding Trump.
No.
Always assume there's at least a possibility.
Right.
Like,
and then after listening to it, and there's a lot of emotions that go through people, and I think people are in two distinct camps when it comes to the Space Force. Mm-hmm. It's, wow, that's a really cool idea, or B,
are you fucking kidding me?
Is this a fucking joke?
Yeah.
Like, why are really of all the things, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, this is the hill you're gonna die on. Like,
and then it kind of died down a little bit, and then Mike Pence came out about a month ago.
Mike Pence, of all people, to come out in support of space.
And
you're a fundamentalist Christian, bro. What the fuck you talking about?
But he gave a big kind of hoo-yah speech about the Space Force and the future of that whole industry. And there's a great video online. Anybody wants to go look it up. They took Mike Pence's speech and they set it to the Halo theme song. And it's the most incredible thing you've ever heard. It's too good. So go ahead and just look up
that
Halo
sounds
theme
like
Mike Pence
meme heaven
speech.
right there.
It's great. So Space Force. Kyle, I don't know how much you know about Space Force. I guess let's open with, what is your experience with the understanding of the Space Force?
So it is very minimal.
Okay.
I know that it is intended to be established by 2020 as
Yes.
the 6th official branch of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Yes.
I know that I don't know if it would... Oh, bumped the mic there. I don't know if it would be associated with any other division like Air Force or Marines or Navy or anything like that. My guess would be Air Force or Navy. But, or like NASA. NASA. But I also know that some scientists, especially like Neil deGrasse Tyson, have come out in support of the concept, if not the fact that it came from Donald Trump, and are interested in seeing like what could be done with like asteroid defense or, space cleanup.
Yep.
And I don't know anything about it beyond that, except for the sheer amazing bullshit of the fact that when Trump announced it, his phrasing was that Space Command, the U.S. Air Force branch of space-related functions that still exists currently, and Space Force would be separate but equal. That was the exact phrasing that he used. I'm like, bro, come on. Like, you could have... Normally, I'm willing to believe that, like, slips of the tongue happen and you say things you don't mean, but it's Donald Trump here. Like, you chose that language very specifically, and it detracts from an otherwise great idea, because we do need more human influence and force in space, in my opinion. I think that the fact that, there's a literal infinite fucking universe out there that we aren't doing anything to explore or learn about is concerning. So I personally... Although I think it would not do well in this administration's hands, I would be interested to see what a concept like Space Force could do. So I am excited to hear about the information that you have.
Yeah. So you pretty much nailed a lot of the basis on the...
Kind of the foundation.
Right. It is proposed to be the 6th branch of the military. As of right now, the name falls under the Space Force. Comes from the Air Force as opposed to, like, Space Fleet.
Gotcha.
Which... Everybody kind of thought if there was ever going to be a space-based branch, they might go with the Navy naming scheme and like the structure.
Well, maybe just because it's people just assumed, hey, it's ships.
Yes, and in most like sci-fi versions or fictional iterations of any kind of military force from Earth, it's usually always from or derived from the Navy nomenclature and the naming schematic.
And in the case of Star Wars, the ships still fight broadside to broadside like traditional naval ships.
Which is dope.
In the 360 omnidirectional battlefield of space where there's no gravity.
And no one can hear you scream.
But I'm like, you can move in any direction at any time with no force loss because of the lack of gravity. Why would you move in straight lines and only fire side to side? Like,
this is why we Hollywood reaching out to you. If you ever want some consultation about how to make slightly better movies, don't talk to me.
Talk to Dan Harmon, apparently, because he helped with Doctor Strange, and you can tell his influence is all over the comedy of that movie, and it worked.
Yep.
With what was I going to say? Oh, yes. But with regards to Space Force, can you talk a little bit about what you think it would look like in terms of like the infrastructure side of things? Like, how the hell would any of this get set up?
Yeah, so you touched on the foundation of it, U.S. Space Command. So U.S. Space Command is a division of the United States Air Force. I think it's made up of roughly 20,000 personnel. It's a pretty small division of the Air Force, but that entire domain is run by that branch of the military. They're pretty much the only ones that have any jurisdiction over it, and anybody that does any work in space, it carries through them. So infrastructure-wise, it's an interesting kind of discussion, because if they want to stand this branch up by 2020, that time frame is ridiculously small.
That's kind of what I was thinking when I saw that number.
And it's hard because you're looking at it from a couple different perspectives. It's the first part is your personnel, is what do I do about personnel to staff an entire new branch of military? And that is, do I pull all of the existing members of U.S. Space Command into Space Force, and does that just absorb into that new branch? Or is it that I open it up to an open market and I collect internally first? So what that might look like is it would go out from the Space Force Command. They would go, hey, we're offering to all current active duty military or reserve military, would you like to join or switch branches? Switching branches happens all the time. People think that if you go into the military, and here's a fun fact for you, you're not locked into your specific branch. I mean, you are for your first contract, but eventually you can switch branches. That is possible.
Is that true?
Yep. So,
wow.
Like, we have people,
Facts.
People all the time that would go from, like, let's say you're in the Navy, and being an officer in the Navy is hard. Being a warrant officer in the Army is less hard. It's easier. They have more openings, so you can cross-rate and go into. We had a guy that I know that was a Navy enlisted guy, and he ended up switching over, transitioned, and now is a Army warrant officer and flies helicopters.
Yo, that's badass.
That is cool. I've got a couple people that are, but you can switch branches all the time. It's just whatever works out best for you. I have
wherever you're going to be like the most useful with your particular skill set, you know,
and whatever's going to benefit your career most. Like,
I feel like does the armed forces actually care about the careers of its applicants?
They do.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Like,
if that's one thing, it's they're trying to preserve, and how can we bet? Like, that's the number one thing that they push more than anything is how can they keep you operationally ready, and how can they train you to have new opportunities. By training you for these new opportunities, they hope that you'll stay in longer if you feel that you have the opportunity to grow within your particular field. And if you can't grow within your particular field, they'll find something for you that will help you grow. We'll put you in something else. Hey, your work over here is good, but maybe you could go more towards doing personnel or administrative things. So we're just going to direct you more that way because that's more managerial. There's more opportunity for growth, and you go up that way. Instead of, you couldn't stagnate and go up here, we'll move you over laterally to a different type of job where there is more opportunity.
And so you're saying that the Space Force at its inception could take advantage of that application of the law and like be able to incentivize people to take a chance on this new branch.
Yes. And we'll get into some issues here in a moment because I can already feel the problems that I can foresee with the Space Force. So the first part of it is if we move people over, and this is where you kind of talk about, well, if I'm going to move people over from other branches, do we let that happen? And the only problem with that particular instances is, well, now if I have a bunch of people that jump ship from their particular branches into this new one, I now have openings that I'm already having a hard time filling in that other branch of government.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know if anybody knows this, but the United States military is hurting for people. So if you're thinking about it, I'm not going to discourage you from doing it. I know a lot of people that have done really good things with it. It's an opportunity to consider, especially nowadays because they are just throwing money at people to get you to come in. I think right now
they're throwing money at you to get shot.
Yeah, it depends on your field. Not everybody gets shot. You can learn there are some pretty cool jobs in the military. I mean, you can learn to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
If you
Well, I mean, there's always things like
I
guess you're right in that there's always things like, medical work, intelligence work, or like, reserve work, even National Guard type thing.
Mechanical work. You can learn to fix airplanes. You can learn to fix
but I feel like those aren't the type of people that they're hurting for.
They're hurting for everybody. Everybody is hurting. Across the board, military staffing and numbering is down because everybody's retiring.
Okay.
It's kind of a well-known thing. That's why if you notice that, like, this is kind of the coming from if you look at it from an outside, the incentive, I think the Navy commercials nowadays offer I don't know if it's the Navy or somebody offers like a $40,000 bonus to sign up.
If I've always thought to myself that if I ever wound up joining an armed service, it would have been the Navy. A, because my grandfather was in the Navy, and B, because it seems like it's the armed forces that has the most options for people who want to serve their country without being in the middle of a real-life, actual machine gun war zone. Mm-hmm. So,
And it's funny that you say that. A lot of the times, Navy reservists, particularly, so the people that like to make fun of the weekend warrior folks that do that, reserve, and that's across the board, reserve components usually make up about, I think it's 70 to 80% of the overseas deployments.
Well, that's also because you have a lot of people who are merchant marine, right? You have a lot of those guys who are working on merchant and like cargo ships that also are technically in like selected service and reserves.
Yeah, but like these reservists in particular get pulled to go put in what we call the sandbox, which is like the wonderful places like friendly Iraq and colorful Afghanistan. They're great places to visit. Just
not if you're going there with a gun.
But yeah, there's an interesting thing for you. So then there's opportunity number 2. We have a bunch of reserve forces. Do we call the reserve forces and offer it to them because they're not technically part of? I mean, they are technically part of the branch that they're in,
but they're not in active use.
Right. They are a subsidiary division of their respective branch that is used to fill in and be mobilization ready in the event that we needed them should a war break out or whatever. That's the entire job of a naval, army, Air Force reservist is if shit kicked off and we needed more people, we're going to call you. Mm-hmm. Or if we have an opening somewhere that we need you to fill, we're going to have you fill it. Because reservists are much more plug and playable than active
plug and play.
Well, it's
no, it is an effective metaphor. It was just funny terminology.
Yeah,
but
make it accessible to the masses, Kyle.
I would rather we not make the warfare more accessible to the masses. I would rather we have much less warfare on a global scale. But you are right that these reservists are a huge part of any military body because you have with the sheer way that the cost of running an army works, you're simply not going to be able to have the entirety of that force deployed at once unless you're in active, like, full-scale ground combat war. And I don't know, it seems like that doesn't really seem to be the norm nowadays. It's like strike teams and drone strikes.
Yep. And money from a budget perspective, the defense spending is probably the largest spending that the United States conducts.
No, it is.
Hands down.
The largest spending the United States
and by
conducts.
A long shot.
And by a ridiculous one at that.
There's a lot of money that goes into
hundreds of billions.
The defense spending is what that falls under.
Yeah.
But like you said, the transition to warfare is changing. It's not what it used to be. It's not.
So how would Space Force come into an era that's like sort of up in the air like that and be able to convince people that it's a good idea?
Well, I think they need to do a better job of
deciding what the fuck they actually are first.
Right, well, the Space Force as a whole, their job would be to control the warfare dominion that is space. That would be anything above where a plane could fly. Would be technically where they would consider that would be their AOR, their area of responsibility, or their area of operation. So AO.
I won't claim to know the terms.
There's a lot of acronyms, so I'll try not to spew out acronyms. But what that dominion is right now, Space Command holds that little bubble around the outside of where planes fly.
Sure.
And so people think of that and they go, well, why the fuck would I want to invest in a Space Force? We're not fighting wars in space. We're not building spaceships. There's not combat in space yet. That's
I don't think that we'll be having space dogfights in your eyes lifetime. But there are things. But like you said, there's more jobs in the military besides combat.
Yes.
And non-combat operations in space are exactly what we fucking need because we kind of just went to the moon and then fucking gave up. Yep. Like, we have so much more to do.
And I'll touch on that here in a second. Where what people don't realize is that I think there's a treaty in space, in case anybody didn't know about the treaties in space, that says that we can't put weapons out into a satellite. You can't put a satellite with missiles in it.
So it's not exactly like international waters, anything goes.
No, it's there was an agreed upon instance where a lot of the countries that were able to operate in that dominion said, hey, let's not put missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles in space. And it's also just not functional.
I mean, I am also personally in favor of the whole, hey, let's not nuke people from orbit. This isn't the second Alien movie.
No. And weapons in space don't necessarily make sense anyway.
Yeah, because, there's the whole no gravity thing.
Well, it's also no gravity, but like people go, well, what if I put a missile in a satellite in space? That missile could launch at any time and would come straight down and it would have all this velocity and it would be catastrophic.
Isn't it also possible that it'd just burn the fuck up on re-entry?
It could, but I doubt it. We'd probably design it to go a little bit farther than that. I mean,
I just don't know what metalworking we have that's capable of surviving re-entry because I know it's like a whole goddamn process.
Tungsten doesn't
space
melt in space. There was actually a weapons initiative that went out that was, I mean, it's like people think it's science fiction, but I'm sure there was some actual definite research done there, was tungsten rods.
Isn't that the plot of Call of Duty Black Ops 3?
It is, which is funny, but it's also the plot of...
no, it's Call of Duty Ghosts.
Ghosts, yes. But yeah, that's like a legitimate thing. If you had a hard enough metal that you could just drop from a satellite that wouldn't burn up on entry, it would carry all of the velocity of getting pulled through the atmosphere down and would basically act as probably not the devastation that, like, I think they did it in G.I. Joe Retaliation too, that fucking movie, in case anybody wanted to bring that back. But
wait, was that the first one or the second one?
The second one. That was the better one with The Rock.
I never saw the second one, but I saw the first one when I was like fucking 12 or whenever it came out, and I remember it was dumb fun.
Yes. Second one was even better.
Was it?
Yes. Much more fun.
I'll have to get stoned and check it out because there's no fucking way I'm watching that sober. Like,
but that would be like the equivalent of a nuclear warhead without any of the fallout.
Yeah.
It would do the same level of destruction. That's a lot of destructive power. So people go, oh my God. Like,
and I imagine people probably look at a thing like Space Force that is inherently military in nature since it's an armed force.
Yep.
And they probably go, ooh.
You associate it with devastating consequences and that these...
Well, I mean, most people just associate science in general with devastating consequences. But when you get science and the military in the same place, yeah, people get woozy.
Yes. But the functionality of, let's say I put a satellite out into space and I'm going to arm it with missiles.
Yes.
Why would I do that? Because if I put a satellite out into orbit, it is in that orbit forever. It does not move orbit. The rotational pattern of a satellite does not shift. It stays in the relative same location that it is all the time. So you would have to launch it into a particular orbit that satellite would be on the rotation that it needed to be to drop that missile. And then you'd have to line it up and time it exactly right to get a missile to fire and to fall exactly how you want it to every time. And it just wouldn't make much sense. It would be so much extra work. Whereas right now I have an intercontinental ballistic missile that I could fire and hit any country where I wanted to within 40 minutes and you'd have no idea. You'd have no time to stop it. is essentially.
Well, that's fucking terrifying.
And that's just the way, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about that, where understanding how ballistic missiles
So did
work.
Hillary Clinton on national television.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's our nuclear response time, guys.
It's not big. And that was why everybody freaked out when we had the little the missile warning in Hawaii that went out this year. Was that this year? Yeah.
Yeah, when the guy clicked on actual missile warning instead of missile warning test.
Yep.
Isn't that actually what happened?
There's a lot of different and conflicting stories that go back and forth about what actually happened.
That's just the one I've heard the most.
What I heard was there's another thing where they were on a shift change, and the guy from the previous shift change didn't relay over that they were going to be doing a drill on the next shift. And so when the guy got through, he didn't know that it was a drill. And please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, like that's going to be the takeaway from this whole segment is we're talking about what we know with the information we have at hand. Please correct us if we're wrong. We don't want to be spreading misinformation.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, it just weapons of that caliber of what we have right now, capability-wise, probably not the most logical thing in space. So that would not be what the Space Force's primary focus would be. Space Force's primary focus would probably be satellite defense. It would be defending the current satellite system that we have right now, because our entire military and our entire way of life operates based on those satellites in the sky. Everything from how you navigate
and
to
I feel
how
like
you
that's not just
communicate.
the U.S. either.
That's everybody. There's a lot of satellites. And a couple of years ago, China actually proved that they have the capability to shoot down satellites. They have weapons technology, and they did it in the public eye, and they blew up one of their own satellites, and the debris like fell back into Earth, and it was a big thing. But there's a lot that goes into what the next future of this warfare dominion looks like. Because traditionally, back in the day, when you think of warfare, if you wanted to win a war, you had three main focuses. You had air, ground, and sea. If you could control all of those, you won every war. It didn't matter. If you had dominion over those communities, you were the victor of everything.
Bonus points for using the word dominion.
It sounds spacey.
It does. It sounds like regal and like
I think it's
imperial and militaristic.
I think it's also the villains in StarCraft 2. StarCraft? I think it's the name of the Terran bad guys in StarCraft.
I never played StarCraft.
Well, if you did play StarCraft, I think it's the Dominion.
Okay.
But getting back to that whole thing, well, now it's changed. They added a fourth warfare domain, and that's electronic warfare. And electronic warfare is the biggest warfare dominion, hands down, by far.
Well, it's because I feel like it's got to be because it's wrapped up so much in information.
It's wrapped up in everything.
Electricity and information, electronics, it goes into almost every aspect of society that we have. Mm-hmm. Even down to something as rote as removing yourself from technology and being more peaceful and mindful, like meditation. There are literal electronic meditation apps.
I have one of those.
Do you really?
I do.
Interesting.
Headspace. It's not a plug for Headspace. I just really like the Headspace app.
I see it on YouTube all the time, and I feel like it's bullshit.
No, I actually really like it. It's guided meditation. We're going to break away for a second here, take a small break to talk about Headspace. The app, there's a couple different functionalities. It's mostly guided meditation, so it's not for somebody that's like super fluent in doing meditation, because a lot of the times those people don't need someone to tell them how to meditate.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
But this whole thing walks you through the foundations of like how you should go about a meditation process, and it's not like it's the right one or the one that everybody does. Here's a way to meditate, a way to calm your mind, and then there's a bunch of modules that you can pick from if you get like the premium version, which is you can pay I think it's like $60 or something for a year.
No fucking way I'm paying money for meditation. Are you kidding me?
Right. But they have
use the free app or pirate it.
They got a bunch of modules in there that kind of deal with different aspects of how to learn to deal with certain emotions. So they've got like a self-confidence one, or a eating healthy, or what are some of the mental mindsets that you should put yourself in to kind of help you with that. But then they also have ones for like people that are in traumatic situations, like, hey, I've got anxiety, or I've got...
Are these modules backed by any kind of psychological or meditation sources?
I'm sure they did have them, but coming from my own personal experience, I didn't meditate. I never meditated. And then within the last 2 years, I kind of started to explore the idea of meditation and to get into it just as a means of like, well, everybody says this is good for you, so I'm going to see what this bullshit's about. But it turns out that when I do meditate, I feel probably like a 50% increase in my ability to deal with things in a day.
Just the bullshit tolerance just becomes a little bit stronger.
Right. It gives you a little bit more self-reflection, because the gist of meditation here is to sit down, to to kind of focus on breathing, focus on your body, and then to focus on just things that you can control within yourself. That's why they have you control your breathing, because it teaches you that even when your life is in this state of chaos and you feel like everything is out of control and slipping out of your fingers, you do have control of something. You can control your breathing. You can control the feeling that you're feeling. It's to ground you. You feel your feet on the floor, stuff like that. And it sounds like hokey.
Well, you know
malarkey.
Me.
Right.
I'm very much a fight-oriented person when it comes to like issues and problems. That's the things you'd need to do meditation for. So I guess for me, I just think to myself, yeah, I can control something. You're right, meditation. You're helping me control my ability to sit there and do nothing and be passive and just let the world keep beating the shit out of me. But maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Maybe I haven't come at it from the right perspective before. Also, meditation is inherently the art of making friends with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. That's totally something that I'm going to be good at. Like, sure.
And they teach people that, and people struggle with meditation a lot, especially in the beginning, because they feel that meditation is about controlling your thoughts.
I think the biggest obstacle for me whenever I tried it was I felt like I had to like empty my mind.
And that's not what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. The goal, and they talk about this, they have some really fun kind of animations that make them really relevant so people can kind of get the gist of them.
I've seen the animation ads on YouTube, and the little brain dude's super fucking cute. Like, he's adorable.
It's about teaching you that you're like, imagine yourself sitting on the side of a road, and that all of your thoughts are like passing cars, and you're sitting there observing the cars, but don't chase the cars. Observe that they're there, acknowledge that they're there, but don't let them consume you. Like, don't go running after them or whatnot. Because in doing that, you end up kind of pulling yourself away, and that's where people get discouraged, is they get distracted. Your mind, especially if you're just sitting there completely still with your eyes closed, your mind is immediately going to wander. I don't care who you are. Your brain is going to start to go off on its own tangent, but that's okay. That's the point. It's to know that when you realize that's happening, we're going to pull it back in, and we're going to focus back in on your breathing. We're going to focus back in on your feeling of your feet on the floor. You're going to observe it. It's to learn that your mind is a lot like a blue sky. There's a bunch of calmness and great things that are out there that you can look up and see, but you've got clouds that block your way, that are these mental barriers and these thoughts that stand between you and that sky. And people get hung up on looking at the clouds and going, oh, well, fuck, well, I guess that's it now. Not realizing that on the other side of it, no matter what, there's good things. And it sounds like really hokey balokey.
I mean, it sounds a little bit hokey, but at the same time, let me provide a relevant but also not relevant example. Have you seen The Matrix Revolutions? Is that the third one?
Yes.
Okay. That scene in the third Matrix where like they're fleeing from the machines, and for that 1 second they like burst over the clouds, and there's that like 3-second moment where all the sound and audio and music drops out, and you just like see the blue sky and the sun for like the first time in the movie, and you see it with these characters. So I remember that moment particularly spoke to me. So like the sentiment that you're speaking about, where it's like, you know, the obscuring factor that is negative influence can make you forget that the positive is even there on the other side. I relate to that a lot. I think that that's a very good example. I think that that definitely makes me more willing to look at the concept. But I guess I just look at the spiritual aspect of it and still shake my head a little bit.
I don't take any spiritual aspect into it.
Yeah?
There's a lot of religions that use meditation as and I say a lot of religions because there's a lot of religions, period, but a lot of the bigger name religions like Hinduism and Buddhism.
Bigger brand name religion. Trusted now marks that you can trust.
Yeah. They use meditation to reach what they believe is to be a higher state of consciousness. That in meditation, you can connect with a higher being, whether that be, it's essentially your version of God. is the way that they look at it, is whether that's the introspective feeling of yourself, of oneself, and the being of the mind, or if that's the collective consciousness of escaping from the materialistic body and the thing that you contain, like the vessel. And I'm putting air quotes up in case people are like, holy shit.
He did put up the air quotes.
Yeah.
I will vouch for him here.
It's the materialistic body that contains the essence that is your consciousness and your mind. That understanding that when you...
Okay. I'm gonna stop you right there and be a cynical scientific asshole.
Yep.
You don't have a spirit.
No.
You don't have a soul. Your consciousness is a part of your brain, which is a part of your body. It's all the materialistic body. Mm-hmm. So how do you justify that?
And that's where people will come to their own conclusions. People believe it. It's the power of belief for a lot of those people. Mm. That's what they choose to see. And in doing meditation, they think that they have touched. Then I'm not going to discredit you if this is what you believe. That's completely up to you. They are reaching, again, their understanding of God, whether that be this higher image of oneself, or whether it be the idea of escaping the I'm trying to think, put words here, the material self,
restrictions of the mortal plane
of the body. But a lot of meditation, the Headspace app included, does not approach it from that perspective. It's
much more secular.
It's more just like, hey, this is to help you get through the shit show that is day-to-day life and your life.
Your life is fucking garbage. Believe me, we get it. So is ours.
Boy, oh boy, we see that tire fire. That is your life, and we would like to help you throw not gasoline on it, but maybe a little bit of water. And that's all it is. And
interesting.
Yeah, there's approaches to it. But if you've ever been... And I'm going to approach it from here's my little, because to talk about the way I look at religion, I'm theistic or agnostic-y. I don't have a defined religion of I'm a Christian. Yeah, I'm a Muslim. Yeah, I'm a Hindu.
Fence.
Yeah. But the reason I sit on the fence is because there's not inconclusive evidence one way or the other that either side is right. Both sides are, there are definite, what the fuck is that religion? I think there's a lot of things that are wrong with the way religion is, and I think it's a good idea, and it does teach a lot of good it did teach a lot of good moral values, and depending on the people that it does, who handle it, it can be good for people. People sometimes need that.
If Jesus was not the Son of God and you take the religious aspect out of it, how can you look at a guy running around in his early 30s with 12 other dudes starting a cult and saying that he's the Son of God? If you take out the fact where he's actually the Son of God, how can you look at that and say that that's a good moral example?
Right. And that's the thing. There's a lot of things that are inherently wrong. But at religion's core, most religions...
So you're not talking about religion now. You're talking about the idea of faith.
Yes.
You're talking about the idea that there is something that we don't fully understand.
And that you should just, be a good fucking person.
But I just don't agree in conflating that. We're getting so far off from Space Force. I don't agree with conflating the idea that good behavior is inherently a religious or spiritual thing.
No, I don't think it is either.
You need to be a good fucking person because we are all cursed with the burden of life, and I'll be damned if you're going to make it worse for anyone else by any conscious, hateful action.
Yeah.
Not just because the guy with the beard in the sky told you not to.
Right. And that's...
But again, I am very... passionate.
Yes.
You could
Which
say.
Is fine. That's a good thing. It's totally okay to be one way or the other, but if you I'm going to preface that with if you're the fucking shit show on the extreme end of either spectrum, stop it.
Yeah, if you have any connections to Westboro Baptist Church and you listen to this podcast, fucking delete us.
Go fuck yourself. You can come protest whatever you want.
Go protest two dudes in an old, poorly ventilated spare office room with two mics.
They protested Joe Rogan's stand-up in Kansas.
Did they really?
Yes.
I am not a fan of his stand-up. I think that his commentary work and his podcast work is significantly better.
I haven't seen enough of his stand-up to know.
It's a little white guy humor.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I figured it was very bro-ish, dude-ish humor.
And don't get me wrong.
Netflix showed me.
Don't get me wrong. I love bro-ish, dude-ish humor.
Same.
but it can get old fast.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, okay, I get the joke, but let's move on. And speaking of moving on.
Moving on indeed.
Going back to space.
Space.
So we were talking about the idea of, and thank you for sticking with that. Wonderful talk about meditation.
No, yeah, we appreciate you giving us that information there, Sir Nick.
You're so welcome. If you have, like I was saying, if you have questions about meditation, go to look at the Headspace app. There's a free trial. You can go on there and do it and see if you like it. There's tons of free guided meditation on YouTube. There's tons of apps that have it. It's everywhere. You can find it. I highly recommend guided meditation if you've never done it before, because you just don't know what to do if you're kind of on your own, having to sit in silence and think about what you need to think about. It's much easier to have a very nicely spoken gentleman tell you, hey, think about your breathing. Coming from that perspective.
Are we making ASMR now? Like,
so back to space.
yes.
The final frontier, as it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And
No idea where that name came from.
no, if you don't get that reference, go look it up. I'm not going to explain that one to you.
Yeah,
that one's a given.
That's common parlance. Like,
yeah, for sure.
so I have
Said that
so
58
with the Space Force topic, I have another question for
Yes.
you. How do we separate Space Force and something as important to the survival of mankind as space from human military agendas? How do you do that?
Well, there's a lot of pre-established human guidelines that say what we can and cannot do in space, not that they'll be adhered to, because how often are they ever? It's right now, space is it's kind of an afterthought. After the big rush and the push that we had in the 50s and the 60s and the space era, like with Kennedy and that, all of that, I mean, space was huge. That was the focus, because if you could own that dominion again, you were the top dog. And that was what the United States sought out to prove when they put a man on the moon was, hey, fuck you. Look at
Fuck you, pay me
yeah, watch me plant this fucking flag on this moon.
on this beautiful government supplied soundboard.
And
I'm sorry. I make that joke, but again, fuck you if you think the moon landing didn't happen. Like,
there's some great documentaries that talk about how much more expensive it would be to fake the moon landing than it would have been to actually do the moon landing. There is bountiful evidence that I'm sure some of the media about it was faked, but for sure, we landed on the moon. There are reflector panels on the moon we can shoot lasers off of and bounce lasers off to measure the distance to the fucking moon.
okay, so here's my question to you.
Yeah.
How, spaceman,
Yes.
do we manage to convince people to give a fuck in the age where flat earth theory is given genuine attention in the press? When people can just straight up deny everything they see as misinformation or fake news if they feel like it, because we live in an age where, due to computer and video editing software, you can make almost anything look real.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we convince the American people and the people of the world to get on board with the fact that this is a thing that we can and should actually do and exists and is real, when a lot of people won't even believe the objective empirical evidence in front of them, like the laser refraction? How do we address that?
Because there's always going to be people that are retarded, Kyle. And I mean, like, I'm not making fun of the mentally retarded. I'm not using it in that way. I'm saying, like, coming from a perspective.
Context is key, people.
Context is key. I'm using it from the perspective of, if you don't believe that the Earth is fucking round, you have there is some.
Just get some help, man.
Please,
like,
pick up a fucking book. I don't know. I
and preferably a real book, not an ebook with 20 pages that was published by your respective flat earth website that you subscribe to for some reason.
And if you're having to go through all of the steps to try to explain why your theory is so relevant, and some of the ways they try to explain their logic,
like the Twitter post where they talk about how Mars is round, but Earth isn't, because Earth isn't a planet.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite images on all of the internet. Like,
oh, God. So, if you're a flat earther, please stop.
We care about you, man.
Stop.
We care about you, man. I mean, last Christmas you came in, you were so emaciated, you haven't been eating. Like, we're just worried about you, man. Please, get some help.
Yes.
So with those people, how do we get them on board with Space Force?
we have to put funding into it to make it relevant. Where right now, the only people that are truly conducting any kind of space operation in this country is SpaceX, the private company that Elon Musk owns. Mm-hmm. NASA's funding is almost non-existent. We don't care about it. We haven't cared about it for years, but we do. That's the thing, is people don't realize.
No, that's the thing. The American public cares about the NASA work very greatly.
And the U.S. government cares about space a lot. Both of the Bush administrations.
They just don't want you to actually be able to access climate change information that NASA devoted a huge amount of their budget to, because it's real.
There's a lot of things that go into why the NASA budget got cut, and that's kind of only one of them. But all of the administrations for the past 20 years have proposed putting more money into space. Both the Bush administrations put money into space. I think Obama talked about going into space. Everybody at some point touched, since Ronald Reagan and the whole Star Wars idea, it's been a kind of focus of them, and it gets approved for these big budgets, and then it dies off because people go, well, I would much rather spend my money on infrastructure here, or getting this built, or I would have that money go towards actual military spending that matters to me. So that funding gets allocated to other resources that the American populace believes deserves it more.
Interesting.
Yes. But by putting it in the hands of the military, if you want to get shit done, technologically speaking or scientifically speaking, have it backed by your government in a military fashion, because then you get the funding to do what you need to do.
Because then you get the Walmart demographic on board with it. If they can buy it on a t-shirt, they'll give you their money.
And it's, if the government, because right now, if you talked about like wanting to put money into space travel or whatever, we'll look at space travel. The only people that put money into it are Elon Musk. We don't put money into space travel.
And again,
anymore.
like, while I appreciate everything that Elon Musk has done for space, especially with like the Falcon Heavy and the Falcon X and everything, at the same time, I really don't want the future of space travel to depend on the whims of a man who violently crushes any sort of ethical or unionized treatment of his workers. I don't want the future of space to be provided by the same bullshit that we've done here on Earth.
And that's why.
So how do you convince me as an American citizen that this is in any way different?
Because you have to trust in by putting your money into the military and the government, it will reap you benefits in the private sector over the long run. Quid pro quo of airplanes. The only reason we have commercial flights is it was a military idea from the beginning to transport troops via airplane. Mm-hmm. And so we committed time and money and research into that. And then eventually, once the military did all the heavy lifting and the spending to do the research and to do the design, all the private sector has to do is go, oh, well, let me figure out how I can make that into a profitable item.
So you're saying militarization first, commercialization second.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's if from a scientific or technological community, if you want results, that's how you do it. Because then the government will, because that's the hardest thing for a lot of private companies, is putting forth the money and the resources to doing something. Where if it's government funded, the government will pour their, quote, infinite amount of money into whatever they need to do to get it done.
That is a heavy quote.
Yes.
Right there.
They are doing the lifting for you. And then by doing the lifting for you, that gets the work done, proves that it can be done. So then all the private sector has to do is prove that it can be done a second time, and we can do it possibly better.
And also potentially cheaper.
Yes. And that's just the way things go. So
and again, like, given your experience and your background, like, your opinion is one I'm definitely willing to trust on this here. Like, I guess I just am so weary of, like, the politicization and militarization of science when no one in the government actually listens to or gives a fuck about science. It's like this is a time where it's like I really do start to wonder who I should be putting my money and my trust in, whether it's an Elon Musk or whether it's a U.S. government. But again, I have my previously stated issues with Elon Musk, but like another private sector operative could definitely come up to the stage, or there could be a change in administration where the militarization route becomes better and more ethical. It's just like, it seems like every time there's a new and hot, anytime there's the new hotness in any sort of innovation in the Western world, it's always the wild fucking West where everything goes and everyone gets exploited. And then it turns into the domesticated West where a very select few people extort everyone else. Like, I do not want that conflated with the magnificent infiniteness of the universe.
No. And to think that for a long time, the United States and the Soviet Union were the only two superpowers that had any relevance in space. And
can I ask a question without being deemed ignorant?
Sure.
Are there any other developed countries in the world that have a like dedicated major presence in space?
China.
China
has...
Okay, like, that's a given. It's fucking China. I'm talking about, like, is there, like, a UK space administration or India?
There are...
Like...
Oh, God, I'm trying to remember the number here. I'm not going to quote this right. There are 70 countries now with space programs.
Cool.
With, I think, Australia is set to join them this year or next year. That necessarily have...
Just build all those rocket outposts and all the great big fucking emptiness you got out there in the outback.
Or they're designated... It might not be that they have designated space commands is essentially what the statistics boil down to.
How the fuck would a space force interact with those kinds of organizations that are less inherently military?
Well, they're all going to be some inherently military. If they're a government entity, they're all inherently military.
Well, how about this? Maybe I phrased that inaccurately. Inherently military in their execution and the actions they take in the observable public eye. Is that?
So how would they handle that? Like the interactions with another...
Where interactions with Space Force that explicitly states we're military, we're structured from Navy format, we are here to dominate war in space.
Well, that's how we approach... I think it would be very similar to the way that we approach any body now, any government organization
which is essentially, don't fuck with us, or we'll kill you.
Well, it's like, it's not even that we won't, like... It's a different animal depending on who you're talking to. That was...
As demonstrated by the opposing stances even here at this table.
Yes.
Like...
Our relation to other countries is, for the most part, usually pretty good. We have especially militarily, there's a lot of really great communication between all of the world's governments in terms of militaristic stuff. Even people that we deem that are not like our best friends, we have good open conversations with them about stuff. Doesn't mean that we're always not competing against each other to make the biggest fuck you bomb that could counter the other person's shit. That's
just because politics is inherently an unethical practice. Like, you're in the business of controlling and consuming people's lives. Like, there's always going to be the understanding at the bottom of it that everything I'm doing, no matter how friendly or kind, is designed to fuck you in the maximum way possible so that I win. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what politics is.
And everybody thinks that they want to be on the same playing field, but everybody wants to be first place. That's the way all militaries look at each other, as we cooperate with one another. But at the end of the day, it's, I'm trying to be better than you, because if I'm better than you, I maintain
You may not
control.
blow me up later when we suddenly hate each other.
Yeah,
when 200 years from now.
I won't lose a war to you. And
that's one of those things where it's like, I understand the necessity of that viewpoint, but it exists only because we structure society the way that we do. Like,
Yeah.
But that's a whole other can of worms.
There's a lot of things that war is not the same war that it was even 20 years ago.
Yeah, Fallout 3 lied to you, guys. War changes.
It changes
a lot.
Yeah. And space is a big focus, because if you can control the satellites, you can control what does a satellite control? Satellite controls GPS navigation. What does GPS navigation have control of? Oh, my boats, my ground forces, my aerial combat vehicles.
Probably, honestly, your fucking refrigerator at this point, because they're making smart everything.
Yeah, everything is so hardwired into information and electronics that we are dependent on satellites.
I'm going to make a quick aside here. The more that I talk out loud, the more I'm beginning to realize I sound like a very angry anti-tech boomer a lot of the time.
No, you just have...
I'm just super opinionated, and I always assume Yeah, I always assume that, someone's going to try to use something in the most self-serving way possible.
And they are. That's human. I think that's human nature.
But you can't fucking do that in space, man. You can't.
No.
Like, it's literal infinity. You cannot be an apotheosis of infinity. That's not possible, and you will get so many people killed if you try.
And that's what the hope of eventually, if people start to expand out and we do put effort into this, that it could act as a unifying body for which we could drive forward in terms of human progress, not just United States government militaristic progress. It's as a whole, we could combine into forming something that could go beyond just ourselves. That's a long ways off.
And it's
it's
also
a very hard thing to do.
And it's also a very optimistic
hope
about how the people in power would actually perceive the situation. Because you never know what people who are good people before they get power are going to do once they have it. And, I think that if Space Force were going to exist, it would need to have some really permanent protections in place in its core wording, its phrasing, whatever framework is laid down for it, so that future generations and administrations can't corrupt its agenda.
And our military as it stands right now is written to be that way. It's a for the people, by the people entity. Even though that they think that it's controlled primarily behind a government body. Yes, the government body tells you what you can and cannot do and gives the orders and gives the money. But at the end of the day, when people were like afraid that, they're going to come and take my guns, like that was the thing with the Obama administration, is people are going to come into my home, the United Nations is going to kick in my door and take my guns. The U.S. military is going to be backed by this left-leaning government and strip me of my Second Amendment. Which, to give you context, no, they would never let that happen. It doesn't work that way.
Not when there's several 100 million guns in the United States that a lot of regular everyday Joes own in the majority.
And ethically speaking, the government bodies will not let that happen. And that's why they're designed to be their own functioning entities that make their own rules and their own regulations based on.
They're designed to be that way.
But if you look at, so here's an example.
But modern times give different modern interpretations.
So here's a good example of that. Where earlier, I can't remember if it was this year or last year, the military started to openly let transgender, I don't know what the gender pronoun.
Yeah, transgender
individuals, we'll use that,
yeah,
into the military. You could be openly transgender in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And it would cooperate with you in a respect, and there was a bunch.
That's one of those things that I don't understand. Like, I'm not going to talk about anyone's personal or philosophical or religious or political objections to gender identity or any of that. Everyone has their own opinion on it, and it's so difficult. Mm-hmm. But I guess I just don't understand. If you're right there next to someone taking bullets with them, what the fuck do you care what they've got in their pants? You need to care if they can lift enough weight to carry on, like, patrol, if they can pick you up if you get shot,
yep,
and if they can make the shot themselves.
And
isn't that what you should be looking for?
Yes, and so that was why the military adopted it, was they realized that instead
it's one of those policies that should be absolutely unnecessary, but you absolutely have to say, because there are dickheads that will take advantage of it.
And they wanted to, because they were losing service members to the fact that people were transgender.
Yeah, it was don't ask, don't tell all over again, man.
Yeah, it was,
hey, you're here serving your country, but we're going to tell you how to serve your country based on your personal identity. Mm-hmm. We don't want the wrong people representing our country.
Right. And I am strongly in the camp of, if you can do the job and you can handle all of the things that come with the job, you should have the job. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you got in your pants. If you can do it, I want you
deserve
there.
The opportunity.
You deserve to be there. What I am not, and a lot of people were afraid was going to happen was that, and this was the same thing that got brought up, like when people talk about women in combat roles, that was the big push, and the big push was women wanted to be in combat roles in a warfighting scenario. Okay, well, then we want to hold you to the same exact standard physically that the men are held to.
Yeah.
And they opposed it, and they said, no, we want lower standards. We want less physical requirement to do the same job. which doesn't translate well. I think if you have that, it needs to be the set standard and everybody needs to meet it. Like right now in the military, everybody has to take physical fitness tests. There are 2, male and there's a female, because biologically, male and females are different.
In an anatomical sense, yeah, definitely.
We are
bone structure, muscle mass.
Yes.
There's just going to be different things that you and I can do as people. But there are so many women out there who are fucking yoked.
There are
and
many,
could absolutely pass the physical standards of men. Absolutely. Like we have you and I have several friends in person that it's like if she ever joined the army, she'd like fucking crush skulls.
Dude, there's a lot of women that I've encountered in the military that are 10 times the man. Do you remember that a lot of men are?
God, what was that absolutely disgusting boot camp exercise you showed me?
Oh, the 10 count bodybuilders.
Yeah, the 10 count bodybuilders. Do you remember when we went to the gym and we saw that naval recruit woman like doing
just fucking cranking
absolutely
them? Absolutely,
like go YouTube 10 count bodybuilders and tell me that you could do like 3 of those. And this woman was busting out like what 20, 30 before like she came and talked to us.
No problem.
I was
not an issue.
I'm like, yeah, I can't fucking do that. Like, are you kidding?
And I mean, I'll give a shout out to somebody that I think deserves it, because I have been smoked in arm wrestling by a woman. I mean, not just like I lost, like it was close. I got my ass handed to me by this woman, and I'll give her name. I don't care. My former manager, Chelsea. If you listen, yes, yeah. So she is a fucking stud.
I have met his manager, and yeah, she's a badass. That does not surprise me at all.
And she listens to this podcast. So Chelsea, if you're listening to this, I fucking concede to you. Let me get some. I'll do some curls at the gym, and we'll have a round.
Get back
2.
on the bench, Church.
Yeah.
You gotta get the mass up.
Yeah. So, and we've tried to get a rematch many a times, and I'm just afraid I'm gonna lose again. So,
well, at least you know, man. I always admire people who can respect that. I'm probably gonna lose this.
And that brings it back to the central argument of if you can do the job and you're better than me. Or
at the very least,
the same
you are
as
meeting
me.
the standards that I have been asked to meet.
Yep, I have to meet this standard. Why shouldn't you? Mm-hmm. And I think that's fair.
And some people can provide a certifiable reason. Hey, yep. I want to be in the armed forces, but I'm missing a fucking leg. Okay, intelligence work for you.
No.
Like,
so, but the transgender thing. So coming back to why I brought the transgender thing up. So the military pushed out all of this training to kind of help get people up to speed, to let it know it was, hey, this is what's going on. This is how you need to handle it. This is the way it is. If you have a problem with that, and like that was their verbiage, was like not exactly, but if you don't like this policy, get the fuck out of this branch. We don't want you. Is what their speak was.
If you can't tolerate your squad mates, how can you be asked to engage in warfare with them?
And they don't want you. And that was what they said. If you're not going to be tolerant, we don't want you, because obviously you're going to be a toxin to this, and get out. And that was great. It was a huge thing.
You're going to fuck up the chain of command.
Yeah. Well, then a couple of months later, our president, Mr. Donald Trump, came out and said that
45
and said that he was not going to allow transgenders in the military. And that was the big news, was, oh my God, Trump is going to take away transgender.
Did he do that in Congress, or did he just lay out another bullshit executive order that will cease to exist in 2 years?
Well, that's what everybody thought he was going to do, was he came out and openly said it, so everybody thought that was what there was. The policy was that, well, the president said it, so that's what the policy is. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't talk to the SecDef.
Wait, wasn't this in like 2017?
Yeah, this was last year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Didn't talk to General Mattis about it. Didn't talk to any of the respective secretaries of the respective branches about it. Mm-hmm. So what they said was no.
Oh,
they said it doesn't.
I didn't hear that part of the story.
It doesn't come from you. They said if you want it, you will pass through. You will run it through the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense will approve it, and then he will tell me what it is and shouldn't do. And Secretary Mattis, Godspeed to that gentleman. That man is a fucking legend.
He is the single member of Trump's administration that I look at and say,
good pick. Solid pick.
Because he's going to be keeping you from doing idiot shit.
The guy doesn't give 2 fucks either. The man is the most stoic gentleman ever. And
he did lie about the things that he said in, Bob Woodward's book, The Watergate Reporter. One of the Watergate reporters published an expose on the Trump administration, and one of those comments discussed some of the things that Mattis said about Trump behind closed doors, and like as soon as the book came out, he denied it, and I'm like, dude, that's not a good look. It's Bob Woodward. This guy exposed Nixon. He's not a liar. Like, you're Mattis. Like, even if you admitted that you said these things, I'd have more respect for you because I already believed you to be an honest man. So like, you just be proving your point further.
Right.
So that was the one thing that he's done where I was like, I'm like, come on, man, you're a military man. You don't need to fucking lie. Like, you're supposed to be straight shooter. But in every other respect, I think that if he had been. And he got wide bipartisan support when he was confirmed.
Yep.
Like, he was the only one who did.
Yep.
Like,
people tried to petition to get him the name of the title changed back to the Secretary of War because he's that much of a fucking hoss. That dude. He has the most respect out of any Secretary of Defense I've ever seen in the military. People look up to that gentleman with highest regard.
Dude, I'm not even in the military, and I have a lot of inherent problems with the idea of war. And I still find Secretary Mattis to be like, I don't know. He's an interesting figure, and I think that some of the things he says and does are better than the current administration is putting out. And I think that acknowledging that shouldn't be a controversial thing.
No. So, but at the end of the day,
but how does the transgender policy? I can't remember. Were we discussing in relation with the Space Force?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that. These bodies are kind of their own entities, and they have an idea of governing themselves.
Yeah.
They are still within the realm of their respective government. Like, they can't just do whatever they want. But
they can abide by policy, like the Navy did, and say, "Hey, fuck you, we're not doing this."
This is
there's a law.
This is what we decided was the best for us, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And
go home to your mansion, like. We're going to be out here doing the real work, if you don't mind.
There's this indistinguishable fact that they think that the military has no sense of morality, that they just blindly listen to whatever order is given to them.
And some of those concerns are incredibly valid.
But coming from my own personal experiences, this is people will triumph in the end. They will choose the moral decision 99% of the time.
And if it concerns space and nuclear warfare and the future of mankind, if they don't make the right decision, we won't be alive to have to deal with the repercussions of it. So maybe you're right. Maybe there's not too much to worry about.
And there are some huge goals of space, and I think that'd be a fun episode to kind of segue. Maybe even next week we can just continue to talk about exploring space and the benefits of going out into space.
Please let me do just like God. I had this friend in New York who I introduced him to cannabis, and his favorite thing to do when we used cannabis was we would go out and walk for a while and be active so that no one could call us deadbeat stoners. And then we'd watch like Journey into the Universe or all that shit on YouTube, like clip shows of just like space pictures, space images, like space flights, and like, oh man, I could talk for 20 minutes just about like the fucking pillars of creation, man. Like, I love space.
Space is a huge topic. It's awesome. I think we could, especially it's a spoopy month. I like spoopy things. Space is kind of spoopy because it's unknown.
Dude, oh my God, it is going to be spoopy month.
It is spoopy month. So happy spoopy month.
It's September, so it's not quite spoopy month.
Almost spoopy month.
We're
happy
getting there.
Almost spoopy. It's basically Halloween for a majority of white women on the internet.
This is like spoop Advent, or like spoop Lent.
The PSLs are out. The season has begun. The white women have donned their leggings and their Uggs. Actually, they haven't because it's been like 90 fucking degrees.
I am a grown-ass man, and I will not let anyone talk shit to me about the fact that I don't care if it's fall or it's not October yet. If it's pumpkin-flavored, I'm fucking drinking it.
I love it.
I
love it. And kudos to the coffee shops that carry pumpkin flavoring year-round. Looking at you, Loveland Coffee. You do a good job. They, so I think maybe dedicating some episodes, because I love talking about space, and I've been...
And I mean, I feel like we've had the most productive episodes when we have a set topic, like music, space, nerd shit.
Yeah, like I would love to talk about, just talking about space exploration, colonizing Mars. There's a whole topic. Let's talk about Fermi's paradox. That's a whole topic.
Dude, okay, I cannot talk about Fermi's paradox because that just fills me with the deepest, most nihilistic existential dread. Like, I do not want to open up that side of myself on podcast format.
There's a really interesting book that I think that maybe we should just read and talk about, because it's kind of a Fermi's paradox-y book, but it's more talking about like Drake's equation. And these are a lot of scientific terms that if you don't know what they are, give them a Google. It's hard for me to explain them.
We know this shit because we're nerds.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we have any fucking idea how to explain it.
Yes. But it's a book that covers the 75 most likely theories about aliens. And top to bottom. And I think it'd be cool to just go through that book and just talk about these theories, like the zookeeper hypothesis and a bunch of fun stuff.
Okay, the zookeeper hypothesis fucks me up.
Yeah.
Like, what if we are just someone's sideshow in the cosmos? Like,
What if we're just someone's computer simulation?
But, you know what would be really interesting to watch from an outside perspective? Space Force.
Yes.
So you were talking about how the these institutions do exist with some form of self-governance to them. So, and again, my concern is just like, how do you assuage the fears of the public to the point where they're willing to look past the 30 to 40 plus years of ongoing corruption in our country's governing system and say, yeah, we trust you with the future of mankind? How do you do that?
Because it will not... And for a long time, the Space Force will not affect your day-to-day life. They will have no impact on you. You will not even know what they do. Because right now, I don't think you probably have the fact that there's a naval carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or in the Mediterranean Sea or whatever right now has no impact on you, does it?
No, not particularly.
Right. You don't. It's just you know it's there.
And by that I mean no, it fucking doesn't at all. But I'm trying to sound cool.
Yeah, you put no thought into that stuff, and they'll just do their job. They will help to build a foundation to help privatize and to put money and research and a lot of effort into putting great developments into that facet.
But what if their mission becomes blowing up a colony on the moon for weapons of mass destruction or oil?
I doubt
Obviously, there's no oil on the moon, but I'm just providing extremist hyperbolic examples.
We don't know that.
We don't know. We don't know that.
Let's invade it.
Get on it, United States.
Invade it.
There may be oil up there. That's all the incentive you fucking need.
So we're going back to space.
It's just like decided like Donald Trump is just sitting in his office, just like, there's been a disturbance on the force. Oil on the moon.
But increasingly more relevant is the fact that as the United States, we should care about space, because if we want to continue to view ourselves as the forerunner in that world, I think that's me, that we need to put our best foot forward into looking into that.
Hey man, I agree. Like, again,
China is catching up quickly
in every single respect, including wanton and reckless use of authoritarian power. Did you hear about the fact that they just straight up disappeared one of the world's most famous actresses because she got a 0 social credit rating?
No.
We actually live in fucking Black Mirror now, Nicholas.
Did you know they build islands in the middle of the South China Sea, Kyle?
Yes, so that they can specifically control and win land disputes in international waters.
Yeah, go
I'm
fuck
well
yourself,
fucking
says China.
aware.
Yeah, and if you don't know, here's a fun tip for you. Pick up a fucking paper or go to the internet, research, literally, do some research about it. It's crazy. There's some cool shit and crazy shit going on in the world.
Yeah.
And you have no idea because it doesn't get reported on a day-to-day basis. It's not a Trump administration quote. It's not a pop culture death. So you could give two fucks.
And it's also... Wait. Oh, God, what was I going to say? I had something good.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Crap.
That's okay. 2 brain farts.
Yeah, man.
It's getting stinky in here.
And I'm stone cold sober, too. Like, I'm just dumb. Like,
that was me, week 1? All my comedy just went out the door.
Yeah. I feel like that was just first-time jitters. Like, and last week, I felt like I still needed to be somewhat more formal and reserved. And now I feel like I can just kind of...
Especially because we're talking about space.
Be myself. Dude, like, how can you not get hyped talking about space?
Dude, I cannot wait to get hyped talking about fucking colonizing Mars and talk about aliens. That'd be fucking sweet. I'm super pumped.
Well, I don't remember what my point was,
Space
so maybe it'll come back to me later.
And if it does, just crudely interrupt me in the middle of any sentence I'm in.
Are you trying to say something?
No, I'm just saying.
Is that some implication?
No.
Are you dissatisfied with my delivery?
No, I enjoy your delivery. I'm just saying, like, before you forget about it and the train derails and all the children die again.
For the 3rd time in this office.
So many deaths. Why are we still allowed to build trains? We have no idea.
We don't have any of the proper licensing. We don't have any of the proper staff training. You think we offer fucking benefits?
We don't.
Like,
we do match your 3% on your 401k.
Actually, I think that
2%.
We decided to up that to 4 after all the deaths on the job. We had less staff to pay for.
Yeah. But got Delta, though.
Delta.
Got Delta Dental.
That's such an oddly specific joke.
Just VSP. Low monthly
Nice.
deductibles.
Interest rates affordable.
These just hurt. Like these, having just dealt with my own health insurance stuff,
Yeah.
that is close to home.
I am not looking forward to turning 26.
It's a fucking shit show. Don't do
tell you
it.
that.
Don't leave. Don't ever leave, Kyle. It's like the Billy Madison quote: "Stay as long as you can."
I have not seen Billy Madison.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to watch that movie because
I have heard that it is one of the good Adam Sandler
It
movies.
is.
My
The-
brother has almost kicked me in the balls for not seeing it.
the late '90s Adam Sandler. Like he is such a guilty pleasure for me. Everything up until like 2003. Everything after that's kind of shit. But
No. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
okay, it's absolute dog shit.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I think out of those I've enjoyed one Adam Sandler movie. I liked 50 First Dates. I thought that movie was fun.
If you say Jack and Jill, I'm going to punch you in the taint.
No, that movie was an abomination to nature and should not have been allowed to exist in any regard. Whoever greenlit that,
Maybe we can give it to Space
please.
Force and they can just launch it out into the fucking void and we'll never have to deal with it again.
No, because if we send that out into fucking space, some alien race is gonna pick that up and be like, "Oh, we can't ever go there."
No,
We can
they'll
never-
go. We
can
have to contain this.
We have to
We
keep-
must eradicate them.
It is a cancer in the universe, and it must be crushed. But Click, I kind of liked Click.
I have not seen Click.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of sad.
I've heard it actually is kind of weirdly, like, a little bit sad in places.
It is. It's got a good life lesson about it more than anything. I think is what you get out of it. But yeah, like good Adam Sandler movies. Big Daddy, classic movie.
I have seen Big Daddy. It was
Thoroughly enjoyed
many
that.
years ago, but I remember thinking it was pretty funny, even when I was an idiot kid.
Happy Gilmore. This is a staple movie. I just showed that to my girlfriend Laura, and she loved it.
That's another one that my brother has told me that I am forfeiting some
not
of
seen
my
Happy
right
Gilmore?
to live by not seeing. No.
Oh, we'll have to we'll watch them. And then Billy Madison's another one. I think that's pretty much all of the good. Well, like Wedding Crashers is good. Is it
Haven't
Wedding
seen Wedding
Crashers? No,
Crashers.
it's not Wedding Crashers. It's The Wedding Singer. Not
Oh, I have seen parts of The Wedding Singer, and I was
Wedding
like, this
Crashers
kind
is
of
the
funny.
Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. Wow movie.
Wow.
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 Glad we can do that. And if you're not up to speed with the Owen Wilson wow references, go
Just
ahead
go
and
look
give
up
that a Google.
Seriously, all you have to do is just look up "wow" me, and Owen Wilson will be a top.
Someone
result.
made a video where they put all of Owen Wilson's wows he's ever said in chronological order.
Who the fuck does this, man?
And you wonder what we could be putting our resources to, Kyle, is
my God.
exploring space, but instead
Memes, baby.
it's wows in chronological order by
I would like next session to be on the EU banning memes because Article 13 passed, which means that websites will very likely. There is another vote on it, obviously. So pressure your MPs if you live in Europe. I have no idea who listens to this thing anymore because we have apparently like a fan in fucking South Korea. So like,
shout out to you.
yeah, but yeah, like. I think I just did it again.
Third one,
What was I just talking about?
the EU ban.
The
of
EU ban.
memes.
Yeah. So Article 13 would
Yep.
require our websites to put universal copyright filters on. And those copyright filters would look for any copyrighted image being used in that sort of money-making format. And the EU has come out and said that memes will be protected by parody exception
gonna
of
say.
DMCA, but that's impossible to implement when you have automated filtering that catches everything. Look at YouTube and the algorithm and the demonetization crisis, and you'll see just how poorly that can go.
And they handled that really shittily.
And they
they've
continue
continued to
to.
handle that really shittily.
YouTube's entire platform is in flames. Like,
But that sucks because that's the only platform like it that
yeah, because
can
there's
exist
no
on.
other genuine competitors. Like, what's the only thing you get on Vimeo is nudity. That's the only benefit.
what's the other one? The other popular viewing. There's another video website that I can't think of that tried to take off and didn't.
I don't know, Instagram TV.
I think that'll get some traction.
Yeah, it'll get some terrible vertical videos a la World Star.
Hey, I
Like-
think they're kind of fun for like 10 seconds. And that's all I need it for.
Okay, so we already had that.
Yeah.
And it was called Vine. And it produced
Jake and
so-
Logan Paul.
Yes. Yes.
Mostly.
It did also produce King Batch, though. And he's fucking
I
funny.
do enjoy a good spicy Vine though. I do miss Vine. I thought Vine had
I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of Vines I liked, but they were just the obscure, random bullshit with no context.
That's all I need. That's
like
all I
the JoJo's
wanted.
Bizarre Adventure memes that just were like 7 seconds and always made me crack up every time.
That's all you need in life. Mm-hmm. It's just a little laughing.
Just some memes.
Little
memes
Vine, easy to sleep. A little 30-minute compilation. Vines that tickle my egg roll. Vines that
some of those Vine compilation names are just ridiculous.
They're fucking hilarious.
Like, that
what
cure my depression, or like
that keep
Vines
me from
I think about on a daily basis, or instant regret clicking this playlist. I'm like, you clickbaiting motherfuckers. I'm still gonna click on it because they're always funny, but like you're
great.
At least admit what you're doing.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. But it's actually Friday.
I'm not gonna lie.
Dudes.
I love the "It's Wednesday, my dudes" meme.
It took us so long. I had never seen it, and then we stumbled across it in the middle of a Vine compilation, and I about pissed my pants.
It's so good.
Well, and that's the thing. I'll go back and I'll watch these Vine compilation videos, and I'll find ones that I didn't know existed, and I'll just fucking die. Like the most recent one was like it's a guy like, do you want to see how a fish drinks water? And he's like just making this absolute like face. Oh god.
Do you remember Will Sasso?
Yes.
The lemon guy?
Yes.
Well,
life gives you lemons. Different video, I think.
That is. But you should look up the Will Sasso lemon vines because they are a treat. Like
I'm gonna have to look into this.
It's a thing of beauty.
I got 2 free tacos.
I don't know that one.
You know that one where it's like a girl screaming about getting Del Taco coupons? She's like, yes!
God.
Yes!
That is one thing that I think will go down as one of humanity's most toxic, nauseous, vile, and terrible inventions.
Del Taco?
Yes, Del Taco, but also the word yas.
Yas, bitch, yas. I don't know why that's popular. I don't know.
Well, I mean, part of it was
got to trace the origin
video,
of memery.
The Yas Queen Slay, that whole thing with Lady Gaga. That Lady Gaga fan who was like really, really rambunctious in a live video, and that quote blew up, and so everyone started saying.
We should just do a meme origin series.
Actually, unfortunately, that already exists in like 25,000 places.
Fuck. Every time I have a good idea.
My personal favorite was "That Is the Plan." That was. Do you know Anthony Fantano, the music critic?
Yes.
He had a side channel for a while called "That Is the Plan," where he just made these amazing videos that were him taking on this absolute shitpost trash like 4chan personality.
Oh God.
And just doing reviews of memes as if they were albums, like as detailed and as in depth as his reviews of albums, but also total shitposts. Like. The channel doesn't exist anymore because, unfortunately, he got punked by a irreputable music source called Fader that tried to blacklist him and accuse him of, pandering to the alt-right, which was blatantly not true. If you watch any of Anthony Fantano's videos, you know that he's he's pretty fucking far left. Like, so I was just ashamed to see that go. But the moral of that segue is that there are a lot of meme review-based channels. Even PewDiePie does one now.
Fuck.
Like, are we going to really ape PewDiePie? Are we going to steal from him?
Subtle Nazi jokes? Woo! PewDiePie
wow.
shade. PewDiePie, I don't really care. I've never really been a fan of PewDiePie, so.
I don't know, man. Like,
I was a fan of Tobuscus until he got like sexual assault allegations.
God, that's the thing, man. You just find out that like everyone you loved as a kid was a total fucker.
And then you don't know. But then you don't know if it's true or not. Like I don't know the outcome of that. I don't know if that ever turned out to be real.
Yeah.
Like Chris Hardwick. I remember watching Chris Hardwick on fucking G4 when that was, or I think it was even Tech TV when he was on that shit. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that blog post comes about his girlfriend, and that just turned into just a
and now it's like I
nightmare.
Don't know if I want to support you anymore.
And then it's like,
you're a fucking
and then even if they come out and go, well, it's not true, but you're like, but why would they? I
mean, don't get me wrong. There is some shit with that where it's like, okay, yeah, people are just trying to get their 15 minutes of fame, like with the Aziz Ansari case. Where it was just like some chick he was just a bad date, and she tried to blow it up like he was like a creepy race, like perverted asshole. And that's not the case. But again, when you get allegations that are that specific and that detailed, as a Chris Hardwick, you start going, okay, I'm not going to be that asshole that refuses to believe an abuse victim. I'm not going to be the guy who doesn't look at a person who's in pain and say, okay, I should at least hear you out and see the evidence. I shouldn't just assume you're lying because you are making a serious allegation. And if it's true, it has to be dealt with because that's how justice works in this country. So
that's tying it back to the first week.
yeah,
It all comes.
we tangentialize a
circle.
lot, but we always bring it back at some point, even if it's 2 episodes later.
Which is great. We're building a relationship here,
So
folks.
bringing it back to Space Force.
Yes.
Are there any little bits of information that you feel like you'd like to share? Anything we missed concerning this force of space?
Well, timeline. It's going to be kind of hard to stand up. You could probably stand up a basic infrastructure in that amount of time.
What would that infrastructure even look like?
You'd have to have a
besides the people aspect.
You
that
need the
we discussed?
people. You would need. Well, that depends. There's a lot of things that are. I think the biggest
What's the
hurdle
number one hurdle?
is the people.
Really?
Yes,
You think that's going to be more?
and the funding and the people.
Okay.
It's how do we allocate funds?
Do you feel like
to go
facilities and things like that could be used for Space Force either
They
already
exist.
exist or
Yeah.
could be built quickly?
To that? Yeah. Well, you could just segue. They don't have to have their own facilities as of yet. They can just because there's Air Force bases that are specifically
Well, ideally,
designed.
their facility should be fucking space.
Yeah,
but
we'll
like,
get there. But right now, there's Air Force facilities that are specifically designed to handle space. Like that's all they do in that building. So
Okay.
that's,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That kind of changes my perspective of it a little.
and then same with are they going to have their own uniforms? Are they going to have their
Well,
own?
they better.
Like,
You better give those people some crazy sick ass space uniforms, man. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
There's a lot of things there. The Pentagon, that's now going to be the hexagon because
Are they just gonna have to rebuild the whole damn thing?
I don't think they'll rebuild it. I think
Like-
they'll probably just build another building and go with it.
Here's your building. Go
Yes.
go over there.
Go-
this is your
go
home.
away.
Get in your home. Go.
Go away. Yeah, no, they wouldn't. I mean, that's going to be weird, but we've dealt with this kind of thing before, and what I was kind of talking about earlier in the episode was the Air Force was created pretty much out of things that already existed. We had the Army Aviation Air Corps, which was a branch of the Army, and the Army handled the air because we don't need an Air Force. And then we had kicked it around in World War I, and then in World War II, we finally said, "Oh, okay, fuck it, we need it." Like the Air Force wasn't.
Everyone's in these goddamn planes now.
Yeah, the Air Force wasn't established till September 18th, 1947. It's not that old.
That puts it in perspective, man. We've had like how long? I mean, the U.S. Army's existed since the fucking beginning. So like
Since October. Was it October? I think the Army's is June. I think it's like June 13th or something. I used to have these all memorized.
yeah, like fucking 1776. Like
1775?
75.
They predate the country. The Navy predates the country.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't
The
know that.
Navy is October 13th,
I feel like I used to know that
1775.
because I was a fucking history nerd, but I've slacked on my history so hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to get back into that.
Yeah,
'cause
it was
history's cool.
It was the Navy, the Army, and then the Marine Corps. And then following that was the Air Force. The Air Force is the newest and latest and greatest of branches. So there exists a format, and they could probably kind of draw some inspiration from how they did it. I don't know the exact turnaround time of how long it took them to convert the Air Corps to the Air Force, but it's just a lot of rebranding. It's a lot of moving people around. It's an infrastructure nightmare from funding to people to and just right now they have I'm sure behind closed doors they have a really good detailed plan that I'm sure they'll talk about later on, but right now
well, one would fucking hope.
Right now it's just being talked about. It is relevant. You should care about it. You should care about it because if it does happen, there's going to be significant leaps and bounds in technology because money will be poured into that.
And if you have problems with the current administration, remember that just because something is wisdom but came from a source you don't like doesn't mean it isn't wise.
And just because who knows what the administration will look like in 2020. You have no idea.
Dude, I don't know what the fuck the administration's going to look like next year. Paul Manafort just pled guilty.
I saw that this morning. It's about to get fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's about to get crazy.
We won't go any further on that topic today just because while we will discuss political ideas here, we still are trying to stick to our no outright current politics rule.
Yep.
Because we don't want to alienate any of you guys or
Nope.
pit you against each other, all 16 of you. There's more than 12 now.
17,
Yeah.
I think. I think it's 17.
That's
Instagram's growing. So speaking of Instagram, follow it at Decompression Session.
Yes.
Please.
If you can't spell decompression, it's okay. Google's your friend.
Yeah, it sounded out.
Except don't, because then you realize that like 2 S's and 1 S sound the same a lot.
Decompression Session.
How do I write a lisp? Like,
There's a lot of S's here.
Mm.
But the YouTube channel will house the videos. You can go and watch them on there. It's a really good place to share stuff too.
Yeah, we love shares, man. Like we're probably not going to read the comments very much,
Nope.
but like we love seeing shares.
Shout out to the notification squad that did comment in there though. I love you. You're great people. Shout out to the Patreons. I think all one of you. We do have a Patreon page. You can go ahead and support the podcast there. It helps us create awesome new and exciting content and to boost the quality.
Yeah.
You know, it just continues to get better. The more money we have to dedicate to this, the more opportunity it affords us to do creative things.
Yeah, because right now we're kind of stuck in this like weekly, talk it out format.
I would like to do it more than once a week.
I'd fucking like to too, but
Just
money.
Move it. That's it.
So
Just move it 2 weeks a year or 2 weeks a month. 2 weeks.
2 weeks a month. Are you sure you don't mean 2 times a week?
I do.
Like,
And my brain absolutely shut off. I don't know where I went.
it was gone.
The abyss. It was dark,
Yes.
full of demons. But
So with that, that idea of excellent content, should we start talking about some excellent content that we've been watching,
consuming
reading, and listening to this week?
100%. Do you?
Excellent.
Who-
I feel like I always go first. You should go first this time.
Yeah. Cool. So as per the usual, and every week that we're going to hope to do, and eventually I will list this all out, so it will be in a nice, convenient place that everybody can go and access it.
Without having to rewind. We're sorry about that.
Yes. So we're going to try to make this as user-friendly as possible for this segment, but it's the watch here and or the watch, see, and read section. So something that I
Watch, listen, and read.
did I say watch twice?
You said watch and see. So kind of.
Shit. We'll roll that back. I'm just kidding. We don't edit this podcast. Ever. But in terms of things that I've been reading this week, I just picked up Neil deGrasse Tyson's newest book. Finally came out. I got my pre-order in. So I've been diving into that. It is called Accessory to War. It is a book that details the relationship between astrophysicists and the military, spanning all the way back to pre-colonial eras. So it's a pretty fun book. Highly recommended. I'm kind of deep diving into that right now. It is lengthy, but from what I have read so far, I can highly recommend it. I have also, since I haven't really gotten really far into that book, a book I have really gotten really far into lately was finally got around to fucking reading Ready Player One. Holy shit, that's a great book. Why the fuck was I not tuned into this book sooner? Why didn't the internet tell me? Well, the internet did tell me, but why didn't I listen?
The internet told you about the movie.
Well, no, I remember hearing about this book when it came out. Everybody was like geeking out over it. I haven't seen the movie, and I'm gonna finish the book before I watch the movie. I think that was my big motivation. Was I kind of wanted to watch the movie, but I wanted to see where the book came from. Listening to this week, great podcast series that kind of relates to things that we will be talking about and are currently talking about. It is called The Anatomy of Next. It is by the Founders Fund, and The Anatomy of Next is a episodic based, or not episodic, but they have episodes dedicated to certain topics, and this season they kind of do overarching themes of the entire season. So this entire season they're on their second one, is colonizing Mars. So talking about all of the things that would go into colonizing Mars, from what is getting there look like, what does actual colonization look like, what does death look like,
What the fuck does terraforming look like? That 2 billion year process.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, it's a really well-produced show. They're about 30-minute episodes, so they're really easy to consume. The entire first season deals with talking about the idea of utopia and what utopia or dystopia would look like.
Dystopia, great track by Megadeth.
Yes, solid. I can't think of any utopia tracks by any artists. Got nothing.
Metropolis Part 1 by Dream Theater.
Okay. I'll give you that one. And then the one.
No, actually, that's kind of dystopian too. I was wrong.
Well, just everything's dystopian now. But the watch one's a little bit more difficult. But what I have been watching is because I wanted to get better at photography. So there is a great YouTuber by the name of Peter McKinnon on YouTube. He's a Canadian photographer. Excellent cinematography in his videos because he used to be like an actual producer and like edit actual shit. Really well done. Totally teaches you about photography and shit. So if you have any interest in that stuff, Peter McKinnon, he's awesome. He's the video. Like I said, books, Accessory to War by Neil deGrasse Tyson. You can buy it on Amazon. It's on sale. It's like $20, hardcover. Should pick that up. And same with Ready Player One. And then podcast was Anatomy of Next, available they're on SoundCloud, and they have their own website. It's best to go on their website because they have the entire season on their website, whereas if you go to SoundCloud, they release the episodes weekly. So that's my stuff. Kyle, what about you?
So for reading,
Yes.
I'm really excited about this, actually.
Did you finish Sharp Objects?
No, I put it down because I found something that really interested me.
Okay.
Have you heard of the video game series Stalker?
No. Oh, wait. Is that the Russian one with the mechs? Or like it's kind of a horror-y?
Yeah, horror,
Yes.
Russian first-person shooter game,
Yes.
horror game. So I didn't know this. I haven't played Stalker myself, but it has a really funny kind of memey online community because the game's programmed on this absolutely broken engine.
Okay.
But it got popular, and people found out that it was based on a novel by a pair of Russian authors with the last name Strugatsky.
Okay.
And it was called Roadside Picnic. And it is incredible. It is so good. It is so weird. It is so out there. It demonstrates everything that's amazing and creative and strange about science fiction. Like, the basis of the plot is that aliens visit Earth, but then they just fucking leave. Like in 10 minutes. Because, like, they are so powerful and beyond human comprehension that, like, there's no indication of why they were there. It's likely that we were just some backwater planet that they stopped on, dumped their trash, and just left.
Wow.
But the shit they left behind is absolutely reality-bendingly weird. Like, their trash is literally humanity's treasure and, like, creates all kinds of crazy super future technology from it. And the main character of the book is someone who's called a stalker, which is like the Russian term for like a scavenger, like a scrapper.
Okay.
And so it's just the story of like these people who are drawn to the exclusion zone, which was one of the places where they landed, which is Chernobyl.
Sweet.
So you get all of that beautiful Fallout 3-esque nuclear depression combined with, the deep darkness of 1972 area Soviet depression. So, it's an amazing book. It's
Oodles
super
of fun
weird.
for the whole family.
And the translation of it is available for free online. So you don't even have to pay money for it. You can Google it, get it in your life.
What was the name of it again?
It's called Roadside Picnic.
Cool.
Which is like, that's just such a great thematically appropriate name given like the explanation for the aliens. But what I have been listening to this week, I have been getting a little bit sidetracked by some older stuff I listened to. Haven't really been listening to much new music, but I did find an electronic artist I really like. This guy's named Tipper. Kind of this weird ambient trancey shit. And it's all on Spotify. Really dig it. Check it out. That's just Tipper.
Like Tipper.
Good starter album. The one that I've listened to the most is going to be Forward Escape. It's got a crazy mechanical technological skeleton with Technicolor coming out of its head. So it's kind of hard to miss. And then for things I have seen, I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular that jumped out at me. I've mostly been reading and playing a lot of Monster Hunter World.
I guess that counts.
Does a video game technically count?
I would count it.
Huh.
I would count that.
Okay, well then, yeah, Monster Hunter World's going to be my pick. It's kind of I'll be honest, it's kind of obtuse. Like, it's one of those games where it's like, this makes no fucking sense, but at the same time, I'm weirdly into it. And, like, it's a lot better explained and user-friendly than previous entries in the series, which have been stuff that makes Dark Souls look like Barney. So, I love Monster Hunter World, and it's super popular right now because a month or so ago, the PC port got released. So it's worth checking out. Super fun. But it is not for everybody. It's definitely for people who like a challenge more than they like.
And real RPGs.
Yeah, challenge and real RPGs more than they like some kind of arbitrary standard of fun that only matches a certain kind of game.
And that's not rocket-propelled grenades. It's a role-playing game for people that are unsure of the translation between RPGs.
So going through that again, we've got Roadside Picnic by Strugatsky, available online for free. We have got...
Tipper?
Yeah, I'm just looking up the album name again because I've already forgotten it. Forward Escape by Tipper. And then Monster Hunter World.
Check that
available on most gaming consoles and now PC.
Awesome. I think that was a really good discussion all around. Pretty general overarching view of somewhat of the current state of Space Force and other topics in there too. A little meditation mixed in, a little bit of fun, which is totally cool. That's how it works. And
yeah, I mean, if you guys come in here expecting us to talk about one thing the entire time, you're in the wrong fucking podcast,
comes
man.
back to the meditation thing. Minds wander all the time, man. They come and go, ebb and flow. That's the way I look at it. And
nice little rhyme there.
Thank you. I'm proud of that. Put that on a fucking shirt. Sell
I'm
that
not
shit.
gonna do that.
Put it on our merch store. Doesn't exist. Same with
our
for realsies.
Our Phantom merch show.
Yeah,
I'm store
shop marketplace.
We need people of intelligence on this sort of mission.
We'll work on
quest.
It. We'll get there. Same with the website. We're gonna get there with a website as well. But I do have an interesting proposal for anybody that does make it this far to the end of this podcast. I would love if somebody would be willing or interested to create me some super cool intro music. Because I like intro music and I like when people make stuff. So why not you help me help you and send me some cool stuff? I would appreciate anything. And
anyone we do collaborate with, we insist on compensation.
Yep.
Like, we are not out here trying to rob you.
We'll figure it out.
Help you.
Right away, it's not apparent, but I promise you in the long run, we'll get shit figured out. So if you or you know somebody, let them know. I'm open to pretty much any sound except that of the banjo. But even then, I might listen to a banjo. If it's fucking dope banjo, like if you come out and you just shred me a solo, I'll listen to you. I'm there for you. Once again, you can go and check us out on social media. We are on Instagram mostly. It's where most of the stuff's going right now.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to make us a fucking Twitter and a Facebook, but that's time, and I have other things that I do. So Instagram for right now, at Decompression Session. I'm not going to spell that out for you. You can just look it up. We are the only one. It is pretty easy. Give us a follow. We post. You get notified when there's new episodes up. You can also get notified of new episodes on YouTube by clicking the bell icon if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Decompression Session as well on YouTube.
Are you guys sensing a theme here yet?
Yeah, you picking that up? You picking up what I'm laying down? And as I said last week, and that's also kind of out there for everybody to look at, we are available on a lot of platforms. YouTube is one, as I already talked about. Spotify, great platform to listen to. It's just look up Decompression Session on there. We're in the podcast section.
Do we have a SoundCloud?
We do. SoundCloud's weird, though. I got to figure it out. It's kind of kicking back some of my stuff. So first episode is on SoundCloud. I'm going to catch up the rest of the episodes on SoundCloud.
Cool.
We are on Apple Podcasts, too. So you can go on Apple Podcasts and do give it a download on there. It does help boost the ratings.
It's all about the algorithm,
remember,
baby.
It's the algorithms on everything. And if you don't understand what an algorithm is, it's a computer-based programming system that generates what you want to see and moves things up in order based on what is popular and what is relevant to you. So if you share it, you like it, and you want people to know about it, do that, and it helps us become more visible to other people. So
thank you
so much, guys, for hanging in for Space Force. Kyle, what do you want to do next week for conversation? What do you want to do? Do you want to do more space? Or you want to save space?
I just don't know if I want to do more space or if I want to talk about the EU banning memes. Like,
we can talk about that.
It's so hard.
Talk about memes.
How about we see if any interesting news develops in the coming week from the passing of Article 13, and then we can gauge.
Yeah, so stay tuned. I guess it'll be a surprise episode. I'll announce it later on in the week, I guess, or we'll just fuck it. We'll figure it out next week.
Yeah.
Who cares?
We kind of tend to wing it around here.
That's the way we do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much again for listening. I have been your host, Nick.
I have been the co-host and less important one, Kyle.
I guess I should just say co-host when I do it because there is two of us. But
I'm just fucking with you, dude.
We love you, and you are loved, and we hope to see you.
You are important.
Yeah, and if you're if you're in the gym, keep on keeping on. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Peace.